Good day, Beasts of War. My name is James Johnson. You probably know me better on the site as Oriskany. And I wanted to talk to you today to introduce a great new series of articles that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks about wargaming in the American Revolution, or the American War of Independence if you prefer. Now, my good friend Chris Goddard, that's Chris G, and I have been slaving away over the last couple of weeks on these articles. And as they roll out over the next couple of weeks, we really hope that you take some time, you check it out, and you like what we come up with. Okay, so one of the first things Chris and I wanted to get straight when starting this article series was the question of perspective. Believe it or not, even 240 years on, the American Revolution can still stir up some feelings and some serious emotions. So this was going to be especially true since so many Beasts of War subscribers are, of course, living in the UK or the US. So with Chris being a good Yorkshire Englishman and myself a proud American, what we've done here is present these battles in sort of an alternating perspective, with, say, myself presenting a given battle from the Patriot perspective, and then Chris writing about the same engagement from the Crown's point of view. Sometimes we're a little tongue-in-cheek with this, maybe a little over the top in a funny way. Maybe we're just hoping to get some transatlantic Brits versus Yanks rivalry going here, but in the end we're just trying to have some fun with it. Another aspect of perspective we're going for here are the different levels of wargaming we'll be playing, and taking a look at the American War of Independence from these different levels. Starting from the highest levels, we'll be looking at the war from an operational perspective using Avalon Hill's classic 1776 wargame. This kind of game puts the whole 13 colonies on one table, with each turn representing a month of time, and each game piece perhaps up to 20,000 men, although that's kind of an extreme case. One game can recreate the entire war from Lexington all the way to Yorktown, although of course that depends on how your game goes. We'll also be looking at certain battles with a command tactical perspective. Basically, this is where this is like a tactical game like any others you might see on Beasts of War, except here one piece represents much more than a single man. These are the kinds of games you use when playing battles like Waterloo, where of course you can't realistically set up 200,000 miniatures. So we'll be using this kind of game for bigger revolution battles like Breeds Hill, Brandywine, Saratoga, Monmouth, and so on. Now, never fear, we'll also be presenting plenty of work with miniatures. The third wargaming level that we'll be using will be battle scale games with Chris Goddard's 6mm miniatures. I know 6mm may be a smaller scale than many players are used to, but believe me, this is the kind of scale that you need to properly do a battle in the American Revolution. Compared to Napoleonic or American Civil War battles, the American Revolution engagement is positively puny by comparison. I think the biggest one was Monmouth, with about 25,000 total troops on both sides. That's only about 15% the size of Waterloo. But to even do a small part of one of these very small revolution battles properly, with the actual geometries, ranges, force levels, composition and cooperation of arms like dragoons or infantry and artillery, you're really going to need a gaming table that's got some scope. You need some miniatures that can accommodate that, because you're going to be working with some serious numbers, distances, and you're going to need some elbow room. Finally, we'll also be working with some smaller skirmish level action in 20mm, primarily using muskets and tomahawks by Studio Tomahawk. While our focus is going to remain on wargaming, doing whatever we can to provide insight, hints, background, pro tips, maybe even some inspiration for playing in the American Revolution, we'll also be trying to clear up some of the mythological haze and distortions that cloud many people's understanding of this conflict. For instance, we're going to be going far beyond the American blue versus British red model with which many gamers may be familiar. There were, of course, huge numbers of Americans who remained loyal to the Crown and fought fiercely alongside the British. Some of the bloodiest battles in this war, including one named, you guessed it, Oriskany, was fought almost entirely between Americans on both sides, with barely a British officer within 20 miles. German Americans fought against Hessian mercenaries. The French were involved, the Spanish, the Dutch even were soon involved. There are 6 different Native American tribes involved just from the Iroquois Confederacy. 4 of these fought for the crown, 2 joined the war on the side of the Patriot rebels, and yes, they did fight each other. The series will be presented in 5 parts. Part 1 will take a quick overview of the war's causes and ideologies. We're not trying to get involved in the politics here, we're just trying to provide some proper background and narrative for the soldiers we'll have represented on our tables. The first engagements at Lexington and Concord will be examined, as well as the furious battle along the Boston Road that followed. Part 2 looks at the initial engagements, starting with the Battle of Breed's Hill, sometimes called Bunker Hill, the British invasion of New York, and the American miracle at Trenton. Part 3 is going to close out the central theater of the war with the British victory at Brandywine, which results in the fall of Philadelphia, and followed by the Battle of Monmouth, the biggest land battle of the war. Part 4 looks at my personal favorite, the Northern Theater. This includes the American invasion of Canada, the British counter-invasion down Lake Champlain, the Battle of Valcour Island. This is one of the oddest naval fleet battles you'll ever see. And finally, the decisive summer campaign of 1777 in upstate New York, including battles like Oriskany and 1st and 2nd Freeman's Farm, which is usually shortened into the Battle of Saratoga. Part 5 closes out the series with a look at the war's global dimension, with battles as far away as the English Channel, Spain, the Siege of Gibraltar, the Caribbean, even India of all places. And finally, the campaign in the Southern American colonies wraps up at the fateful encounter at Yorktown, where the war finally comes to a close. So there you have it, Beasts of War. Just a quick outline of what we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks. No matter what side of the water you happen to live on, the US or the UK, we hope that you take a couple minutes. We hope you check it out. We hope you like it. That's it for now. Just remember, liberty or death.